Oh, hello, hello. Testing, testing. One, two, three. Okay. If you have any questions, as always, you can leave them into the chat section here in the live stream app. But in today's video, I'll be going over how you can find lucrative blog post niches in which you can get into. Now, I'm not going to necessarily give you a list of the niches that you can get into because I think niche selection is very, very important, right? I can't tell you what niche to get in. Essentially, no one can tell you what niche you can get into because this is going to be your business, right? So if you're getting into a niche, don't necessarily choose a niche just because there's a lot of traffic. You think it's going to be easy for you to, there's a lot of low competition keyword and it's going to be easy for you to start ranking keywords for that niche. I've made that mistake in the past. I'm sure a lot of you have already done that as well too, where you go after a niche, let's say within the blogging, within spirituality, self-development, and maybe these are niches that you like, but you don't want to build a business around. So you really need to think long term about your niche. I really think about, is this niche going to be something that I want to build my business around, that I want to continually write content on, and that I want to grow an audience within this niche? So there's a couple of different points here that we'll be going over. I did a video a while ago, but it's good to do a little bit of a refresher. So when selecting a niche, first you need to think about your earning potential and how will you monetize. I think that's going to be the most important factor. For the most part, I think the approach is you create a website and then you create a bunch of content on that website, get traffic, and then monetize through ads. But you can also monetize through affiliate ads. You can monetize through partnerships. You can monetize through selling your own products and services. There's a whole host of ways in which you can monetize, but you need to make sure that the niche that you're in is suitable for that type of monetization. So each niche is going to be different in terms of how you can monetize. We'll talk about this a little bit later. Do you care about this niche? I know a lot of times we don't really think about if we care about a niche, we just want to go after the money. But again, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to be writing a lot of content, or you're going to be facilitating writing a lot of content and growing a website around this niche. You need to have some sort of care about this niche. You need to have something that's not just only monetarily, that will allow you to continue when it's difficult at the beginning when you're starting your niche. Can you niche down even further, right? Can you become more of an expert within that niche? When selecting a niche, you need to write for your target audience. You need to think about, is it seasonal, evergreen, or trending niche? What type of content works best for this niche? So if you wanted to create a niche in, let's say in reviews, then maybe a blog post that's written wouldn't do the enough to get you ranked. Maybe you also need to create videos. Maybe you need to actually buy those products and do reviews. But if you take that extra step, then maybe you'll be able to grow an audience a lot quicker, or be able to monetize that type of content compared to just creating a blog post. So a lot of things that you need to think about when you're selecting a niche. So before we get into what are seasonal niches, what are evergreen niches, let's simply talk about different types of niches and how I would think about starting my niche selection. So first, you need to distinguish the difference between an industry and a niche. An industry is going to be the overall umbrella of a niche in which you're in. So when people are talking about niche selection, AI is not a niche. AI is an industry. A niche under AI could be something like generative AI. It could be something around like AI tools. It could be AI small business tools for using AI practices to allow you to, efficiently increase systems in your business, right? Those are kind of niches, but the industry is actually AI. A niche can be generative AI. So you need to understand the differences between a niche. An industry is gardening. Gardening is not necessarily a niche, but a niche within gardening could be indoor gardening, right? Or gardening in a specific climate, right? That could be a niche within gardening. Test prep is also not a industry. Test prep is also not a niche. It's an industry. But within test prep, we can then get into different types of test prepping. We can get into the GMAT. We can get into the LSAT. We can get into the SATs, right? Those are going to be niches within that specific industry. And again, travel is not a niche, it's an industry. It is a huge, humongous industry. When it comes to travel, you can talk about prices for plane tickets. You can talk about, how to get the best deals when you're traveling in a specific place. You can talk about points. You can talk about so many different things when it comes to travel, that travel by itself is not actually a niche. So what I would do first is I would think about the industry that you want to get into. So what we can do is we can head over to ChatGPT and we can say, I want to do some niche selection. First, let's start with the industry. What So you can start with a simple question like this, right? And it's going to give you some answers in which you can then further do some research on. So it's nice to use these tools because it gives you a little bit of a just some ideas in which you can get into. So AI and machine learning, health and wellness, sustainable living, remote work, digital nomad, tech, personal finance. These are all very, very typical niches that we see, right? So very, very typical, but there's a lot of money to be made in these specific niches. But what I would do is once you then find an industry, so let's say, for example, gaming and esports. I really like this industry. I think that you can make a lot of money within this industry. But when you're trying to start a website within this niche, I highly, highly doubt that if you just create written content for a blog post, you're going to rank. You need to actually do reviews. You need to do maybe video reviews. You need to have stats. You need to have information related to that specific game or esports in order to do well. So that comes back to the point that I mentioned before, which is the type of content. You need to understand what is the type of content that works best for that niche. And if we're talking specifically about blogging, you need to create content that you can actually write that people will want to read, that will rank and bring you in traffic. So like gardening is a great niche, finance, health, lifestyle. The typical blog posts or the typical blog niches, those are good for written blog posts. But something like, let's say, gaming, you may need to do more videos, but you can combine that with written content. And that again allows you to kind of expedite your growth because you're bringing real value and you're bringing more up-to-date information onto Google, not just regurgitating all of this information that people already have. So if you have a passion for, let's say, gaming or something that is not necessarily written content, even that could also be travel, where you can document your travel experiences, right? If you're doing things that are unique, that are fresh, that are up to date, then that gives you a little bit of a competitive edge when you're starting your websites, and you'll actually be able to grow those sites because people want to read new, fresh, up-to-date information. They don't want to read regurgitated information, from using an AI writer. That content can be good, supplementary, but it's also really important to have new, up-to-date, fresh information on your website, and you can do that for whatever niche that you're in. If you're in the AI niche, you can do that. If you're in the gardening niche, you can do that. You can write a new, fresh, and up-to-date information, and that is usually the content that will actually rank on Google. Okay, so you can start your research on ChatGPT, and then if you find, let's say for number 10, give me specific niches, or right, and I can get some specific niches. Okay, no, that's not what I meant. Okay, so I can get some specific niches, so in-depth reviews of indie games, tutorials for mastering popular games, strategy guides for role-playing games, esports tournaments. You can cover major esports tournaments, profiles of top esports teams and players. So essentially doing an analysis for some of these top esports, streaming tips and budgets. So budget-friendly streaming tips, gaming culture. We know streaming is also becoming a very big industry. So you can capitalize on that by creating a website that gives you tips, equipment. That can be an affiliate site in which you can create content, and then people will be able to then buy equipment from you from your site that you recommend. Gaming culture. So these are really, really good niches here that we got from just doing an initial search on ChatGPT. So if you wanted to actually find niches, you can go on ChatGPT, right? So here are the differences between seasonal, evergreen, and trending niches. So seasonal are going to be things that are obviously seasonal. So garden, winter sports, travel, that is sort of seasonal. Evergreen is going to be finance, health, and lifestyle. I'll be very careful when it comes to writing health content on Google. Google wants to have an authority within that space. So if you don't have that authority that's going to review your content, stay away from health stuff. Even finance stuff is very, very difficult now. Lifestyle can do well, especially if you're creating your own content, you're creating your own videos, you're adding in images and things of that nature, then you can do really well in lifestyle. Trending can be things like AI, machine learning. Van life is very trending right now. Political commentary, things that are trending at the moment. You can really capitalize because you can grow a website pretty quickly using that method. Then we have different types of industry. Again, we went over this, but this is how I would essentially think about niche selection. I would first think about the industry, then I would think about the niche that I want to get into. So the industry is AI, the niche is generative AI, and then think about the content in which I want to get into. So the content can be blogs. So once I think about the niche, then I want to think about what is the best type of content that does well for this specific niche. So if I'm in AI, then maybe blogs will do really well. But again, as I mentioned earlier, if I'm in test prep, which I think is also a very, very good niche, maybe content isn't going to be the best bet for me. But maybe an actual blog post will be better for a specific niche compared to that industry. So again, for example, if I'm in a niche that, let's say, I do reviews of different products and services, then maybe blog posts wouldn't be the best bet, but videos may be much better. Right? So first think about the industry, then think about the niche, then think about the type of content that works well for that specific industry or that specific niche. So again, some niches that I really like: AI, test prep, I think is really good. Travel guides, and travel guides can include local travel guides. So let's say, for example, I live in Toronto. I can create a website all around the things that you can do in Toronto, things that you can do in downtown Toronto, things you can do in Midtown, things that you can do in the East End and the West End. Right, I can create a really, really good travel guide because I live in this area. I can get images, I can get real life information and reviews, and I can do reviews of different companies and businesses, and I can grow a website that recommends places and things to do within my local city. And I can contact those businesses, get backlinks. I can grow a really, really good real site using that information. I think that is a really, really good approach. You could also do review sites or things to do within your local city. And again, for that type of content, you would probably have to create a mixture between blogs, between videos, between written content, between having pictures, and different types of content. But that could be a really, really good niche to get into. And if you want to validate your niche and you don't have access to Ahrefs or a keyword planning tool, then you can head over to Ahrefs. You can use some of the free tools. So let's head over to free SEO tool, and we can do keyword generator. So things to do in Toronto. You can click start, and we can start doing some preliminary keyword. So we see that this is kind of hard, but things to do in Toronto with kids is pretty easy. Things to do in Toronto for young adults is pretty easy. Free things to do in Toronto, right? So this is a good start here. We have some things in which we can, or some keywords in which we can go after. It's kind of validating that there is a niche for this. So even though this keyword difficulty is hard, we have about 10,000 search volume. So this is kind of validating that, okay, this niche has a pretty good amount of people that are searching it up. So this could be a potential niche in which I can get into, right? So that's what I would do, is I would find some ideas using ChatGPT, then, or using any AI, or you can simply Google trending niches of 2024. A lot of the blog posts that rank, I would say that they kind of regurgitate the same niches, but there's some websites in which you can go through. You can find some some really good niche ideas in which you can start doing your research. And once you find that, once you find a niche, then I want you to think about, okay, that maybe, is that a niche or is that an industry? If it's an industry, think about what specific niche you can get into. And if it's a specific niche, then think about what content does the best for that specific niche. Once you figure out what content, then you can head over to Ahrefs. You can do some preliminary research, things to do in whatever website you want to create. And then you want to do some preliminary research using the free keyword tool to see if there's decent search volume for that specific keyword. And if it checks all of those boxes, and if you actually like that niche, if you could see yourself creating content within that niche over and over, and having a long-term vision and a long-term plan for that specific niche, then it may be worthwhile for you to get into that niche. So that is how I would go about niche selection. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that you learned something new. If you did, let it be known by giving us a big thumbs up. And if you have any questions, if you want to comment on anything that I mentioned in today's video, you can leave a comment in the comment section below. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.